I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but today I'm going to be the bearer of bad news. There's a lot that's been going on lately with the EU and the UK when it comes to the censorship of the internet. It's a topic that I have talked about considerably on the channel for the last few months, and I feel like it's time to sit down and talk about it because things are starting to heat up in the last few days. First off, we need to get into what just happened today and how people are reacting to the overall news. So this is a very well-known politician in Japan commenting on the situation with the DSA, the Digital Service Act, that the EU has recently passed and is in effect. For those that need a brief rundown, basically the DSA in the EU is more or less censorship. It will force multiple platforms or the entire internet to implement age verification, face scanning technology, and pretty much more or less spy on everyone that accesses the internet. And so it's obviously not good. It's an invasion of privacy, and the EU and the UK and a bunch of other governments around the world are more or less saying the reason why this type of stuff is being implemented is to protect children or think of the children. And I've said this over and over again, but it's very obvious it's not about that. It's more or less just about censoring people, stopping you from having wrong think, and also just completely silencing opposing opinions if they disagree with the current in power government at that time. But let's get into the main topic and let's talk about what this politician from Japan is now talking about when it comes to the situation. The EU has announced that it will impose a fine of approximately 21 billion yen, which is $141 million, on X, aka Twitter. This marks the first official violation determination under the Digital Services Act, which regulates SNS and other platforms. The reasons cited includes changes that allow anyone to obtain paid verification badges, therefore eroding trust, and refusals to disclose certain data to researchers. The United States is strongly opposing the move, with Vice President Vance issuing a warning. The intensifying EU internet regulations are emerging as a threat to freedom of expression for overseas countries, including Japan. More or less, to get to the gist of it, this issue with the DSA from the EU that's affecting all of the EU, not just, let's say, UK, is now affecting pretty much a bunch of countries, all the countries around the world. And it's really crazy that one law for an entire, section of the world is affecting everybody, and they're thinking that they can kind of rein in the internet and censor everybody if they say the wrong thing. And you can see kind of where the original post here from JD Vance, which I'm going to pull up here, this is what he said yesterday and in the afternoon. Rumors swirling that the EU Commission will fine X hundreds of millions of dollars for not engaging in censorship. The EU should be supporting free speech, not attacking American companies over garbage. So, more or less here, this was before the information came out earlier this morning, but yes, Twitter is getting sued because they're not handing over data, your personal information, to the EU and allowing them to spy on you. And this type of, ruling from the DSA is pretty much more or less hitting every single site. Any site that is online is most likely going to be getting hit by the DSA from the EU. This is kind of very similar to what happened to 4chan. If you remember about 2 months or 3 months ago, 4chan was hit by, a lawsuit and all that, and 4chan's like, we're not going to comply, we're American, screw you. And we saw kind of where that went, and we'll see where that goes with time, kind of ticks on by. But the point of the matter here is that JD Vance and probably Trump and all of them are aware of the ongoing situation with the EU, and even if you dislike politicians, you dislike Vance or Trump or whatever, Republicans, Democrats, whatever, the point is it's being talked about. And I think that this is a very important thing to discuss because it's very obvious that it's a bad situation. Censoring free speech, censoring, creative freedom within art and games and everything is completely unacceptable, and that is what is clearly going on here. Now, I'm going to be honest here. Twitter is not a perfect platform. It definitely does have some things that are a problem, but it is definitely the closest that you could possibly get to, people just expressing themselves freely. Once again, I'm not saying it's perfect. It's definitely not. But I think that the fact that you have the EU really just trying to hammer down and reel in X really just goes to show the inherent issue here, that it's not about protecting children, it's stopping people from being able to communicate and say what they want to actually say. And so this entire fine that they're trying to do just goes to showcase the priorities, that they don't actually care about kids. Now, it doesn't just stop at that. We need to talk about how we got here in the first place, which is the EU chat control, which is basically more or less the EU wanting to spy on everybody's private messages. For instance, let's say you're on Discord and you're messaging your friend privately, they're able to spy in to see what you want to do or what you're talking about. Like if you're saying, hey dude, you want to go get some coffee later? You know, they're seeing what you're doing. Or, you know, you're saying, hey man, you want to play this game later today, or you want to go watch this movie or something? They're spying in on you. And this is more or less what the EU is trying to do with their chat control as well, which is reaching closer and closer to being fully passed. But there has been some regulations that have been removed, but things that also have been added in to basically force in age verification and age assignment measures, and more or less you have to verify yourself every few months to be able to access the internet. For those that have no idea what I'm talking about, there was a thing that appeared about a week ago to where you will need to age verify yourself. If you live in the EU and the UK, you'll have to age verify yourself like every 2 to 3 months, which is ridiculous. It once again showcases that it's not about, more or less protecting children. It's because if you've already verified yourself, why would you need to continuously re-verify yourself? It's more or less saying like, oh, we just want to make sure we know what you're doing at all times, and, you know, if you're, you know, here at this certain location at all times. It's very clear it's meant to spy on you and know what you're doing at any given time. It's not a good look. And the entire situation with the EU is just getting worse as time goes on, and this is affecting a lot of countries, by the way. This isn't like necessarily just a EU problem or a UK problem. There's stuff going on in Australia, which is about to be hit by a lot of stuff going on. You know, the United States as well is also experiencing a lot of things with the COSA Act, and there's a lot of sites and stuff, or a lot of states within the United States that are passing laws to force age verification on certain sites, and, you know, it's not good. It's definitely a sweeping effect. It's getting a lot worse, and it's getting out of hand, honestly. And I've said often already when I make these videos, it's kind of weird all this is happening at once. Like, you have a bunch of different countries that are all in the Western world pretty much kind of pulling a China and trying to censor the internet or stop people from saying the wrong thing in their eyes. It's not a good look, and it feels like it's just more or less all connected. Once again, call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but it is weird. But overall, to get to the bottom of the situation, EU right now is coming after social media sites. They're trying to censor them. They're trying to find them and sue them to comply, to give over your data. And right now, X or Elon Musk is trying not to do that, and even, you know, the vice president is commenting on the situation, which means that there is definitely going to be a fight against this. And honestly, what I think is going to happen, if I had to take an educated guess, either A, the EU is going to back off from doing this towards X and try to go after a lesser fish, smaller fish, or this is going to cause maybe X and a bunch of different sites to branch off away from the EU and the UK and segregate the internet, which is definitely something that I have talked about already on the channel, that there's probably eventually what's going to happen. You're going to have multiple sections of the internet completely split off from each other because of different country regulations when it comes to censorship. And so, like, there's going to be a different version of Google, a different version of Reddit, a different version of Twitter, a different version of whatever site you want to go to be able to access the internet, and it'll be just more or less different regions of the internet, and it'll be completely different from a different other country. That's more or less what I think is going to happen if the censorship is not reined in, because that's the only, I guess, option at this point. But I'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk about this, get everybody up to date with it, because a lot has been going on, and as this situation continues to evolve, I will talk about it and fill you all in what's going on. But right now, it's bad news. It's not really good. I mean, it's very clear it's getting a lot of recognition, or a lot of people are becoming aware of the situation. I mean, you have, like, for instance, JD Vance talking about it. Once again, even if you don't like the man, you don't like Trump or whatever, the fact that they're talking about it is good news. It means that there is going to be more people's eyes on this situation, and it's not going to slide under the radar and slowly erode people's rights and privacy with everybody being unaware, or the main general populace being unaware of it. So it is good news that it's being talked about, and I'm doing my part to spread this information for more people talk about it and become aware of it. So yeah. But I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. Please leave a comment on the video. It helps with the algorithm and more people to see this video and to become aware of what's going on in the world. But be safe, guys. Chibi out.